Everybody, back again for Jack and Annie, Hour of the Olympics, and you all know the author at this point. All right, we are on chapter 3, The Secret Poet. The bearded man smiled at Annie. "My name is Plato," he said. "Plato?" said Jack. The name sounded familiar. "You may have heard of me," the man said. "I am a philosopher." "What's that mean?" said Annie. "A lover of wisdom," said Plato. "Wow," said Annie, and Plato smiled at her. "It's odd to see a girl walking so bravely through Olympia," he said. "You must be from far away." "We're Jack and Annie," said Annie, "and we come from Frog Creek, Pennsylvania. It's very far away." Plato looked puzzled. Annie turned to Jack. "I think we should show him our cards," she said in a low voice. "He's a lover of wisdom." Jack nodded. He reached into his bag and took out the secret library cards. He showed them to Plato. The letters M and L that stood for Master Librarian glittered on the cards. "Amazing," said Plato. "I've never met such young Master Librarians. Why have you come to Olympia?" Jack pulled out the piece of paper with the title of the story. "We're looking for this story," he said. "Oh, yes," said Plato softly. "This was written by a brilliant poet, a friend of mine, in fact." "Do you know where the poet lives?" asked Jack. "Very near here," said Plato. "Will you take us there?" asked Annie. "Yes, but I must warn you, never tell anyone who the poet is," said Plato. "It's a secret." "We won't," whispered Annie. Plato led them away from the outdoor theater. All right, there is the picture of Jack and Annie, and there is Plato. And right over here, that is the title of the story. Remember, these aren't letters in our language. In the English language, those are letters in Greek. All right. They started down a dirt road. It was crowded with people heading to the games. Plato stopped at the door of a sand-colored house with a brick roof. He opened the door and led Jack and Annie into an empty courtyard. "Wait here," he said, and he disappeared through a doorway. Jack and Annie looked around. Rooms opened into the sunny courtyard. Everything was quiet. "The people who live here must have gone to the games," said Annie. "I bet you're right," said Jack. He pulled out the Greek book and found a picture of a house, and he read aloud. Men and women lived in separate parts of a Greek house. Women spent most of their time spinning and weaving and taking care of the kitchen. Boys were sent away to school when they were 7. Girls were not allowed to go to school. "Girls can't go to school," said Annie. "How do they learn to read and write?" At that moment, Plato returned. With him was a young woman dressed in a long tunic with a colored border. She was holding a scroll. Annie smiled a big smile. "Finally," she said, "another girl." "Jack and Annie, meet our secret poet," said Plato. All right, that's the end of the chapter. The next chapter is called Not Fair. I wonder what not fair could be. Was there anything in this chapter that sounded not fair to you? Let's think about it, and we'll see tomorrow what's not fair.